Wow. That me, Sean? Well, I hope you enjoyed the documentary on Kingerlee there. As I say, I'm proud to have done it. It's one of the most beautiful pieces of television that I have ever done. And you have a couple of Kingerlees, haven't you, Feargal?
Yeah, we have a few in the office actually. Whenever we opened our new office back in '94, we hosted a Kimberley exhibition.
Yeah.
And Larry Paul facilitated
Yeah.
it. But no, he's whilst I have to admit my knowledge of art is not good, he's a good artist and he's a good story.
It's a good story.
It's a nice book that's produced by
It
him.
is. It's lovely. It's lovely to be involved in it. Right, we're looking at the economy. We're looking at the way. The good news at the weekend on First Derivatives, the Newry company.
Yes, the Sunday Business Post carried a very good story on highlighting that the First Derivatives had opened new horizons in the US market, where they've just signed what's believed to be a very significant deal with a US tech company called Bandwidth. Now, the significance of that is obviously First Derivatives, which is renowned now internationally for its financial software and consultancy services, is obviously diversifying more into the tech sector. Now, that would create very exciting opportunities, obviously, for the Newry headquarter company if it happened.
And that tech sector, does that mean manufacturing?
Well, it could do, but I think, to be honest with you, it's more into the broader technology area, which could include manufacturing, but could also include other value-added tech activities.
Now, of course, it's what you were saying previously on this program. Manufacturing, you outreach it anywhere in the world. You can do it. You base your business here, and you're doing business across a global business plan.
Yeah, well, I mean, the very exciting thing of the article in the Sunday Business Post was it also confirmed the First Derivatives figures published in June, which showed there was over 20% growth in revenue. It's hard to believe, a turnover of over 56 million, 7% growth in net profit to over 11 million. This is a company which, started during the last 20 years. I was
you were there at the beginning, the business plan, things like that.
Well, I was fortunate enough to assist with those opening business plans, and I must say, Brian Conlon has never forgot where he started. He's a tremendous ambassador for this area because he's all you'd want in somebody. He's humble, he's knowledgeable, he has credibility in international markets, but he has never forgotten where home is. And Brian is certainly a great ambassador for the area.
Yeah, absolutely. Another man who will be a great ambassador for the area is Paddy Harty. He's going to be the chairman of the Northern Ireland Tax Committee.
Yes, Paddy has recently been appointed. That's a very prestige position to chairman of the Northern Ireland Tax Committee, and that involves quite a significant range of activities, including a key lobbying role with the Inland Revenue in UK mainland.
Lobbying on behalf of?
Lobbying on behalf of the profession and ultimately on behalf of potentially taxpayers. But the type of things that group would also do would be to ensure that both the profession and the revenue are aware of issues that are arising out there in the marketplace, and equally, they would be the source of representation between the profession from Northern Ireland, and indeed integrating with the Irish Institute in Dublin.
But isn't it a great thing that interface exists? I never knew that such a thing existed, but it's there, and it's speaking on behalf of ultimately me.
Yeah, well, it's very important that there is professional credibility between the professions and between the accountancy profession in particular and the Inland Revenue or HMRC, and I think that can only be to the benefit. I mean, Paddy, you won't walk over Paddy, and I think he'll be a very strong advocate for fairness.
At a different level, but nevertheless a very important level, families throughout the land, they're dealing with the pressures of the costs of returning children to school for another year.
Very challenging in the current difficult economic times. I think I read yesterday in the Belfast Telegraph actually, where they reckon the average cost of sending one child back to school, post-primary school, is £550. But again, I think, to be fair, Rowan, that has to be put in context. If you think how often the child will be wearing those shoes, how often the child will be wearing that shirt, how often the child will be wearing that blazer, over 12 months actually,
it comes down.
That actually is quite good value, because the child will be wearing those clothes for 5-6 hours every day.
Absolutely.
And I suppose, I think it comes down to planning, and I think with a little bit of planning, it probably puts discipline in us all.
Yeah.
That we now know school starts in September, and we have to be conscious that there are costs, but the benefits of school far outweigh those costs.
I think so. One of the things I just draw to people's attention, again, because I've mentioned it already, my attention was drawn by Dominic Bradley to a situation of a young girl of Nigerian origin in Newry who had qualified for university, but because of the semi-permanent nature of her residency visa, she doesn't qualify for the fees, which can be up at £7,000. So really I just put the word out among folk about using the Facebook thing and other things to let them know of the dilemma and to ask for some kind of guidance. One of the things that has emerged since we have talked about it, and I put it out there, was that the better option for this girl may well be the Southern Regional College, where she can study from home. No costs of housing in Belfast, no costs of fees at university level, a great deal less money involved. So I think that option's being considered now.
Yeah, and it's a very good option, because obviously through the Southern Regional College you can ultimately do a degree as well, and they have links with the University of Ulster, I'm aware of, and certainly the Southern Regional College is a very progressive organisation, and one which she will find, I have no doubt, if she decides to go to it, of great benefit to her.
Do no harm just to mention to any of you out there wishing to be philanthropic to make contact with St Mary's School in Newry, or with Dominic Bradley himself. He would be the thing to do.
Very good.
So some parents at the other end of the scale, where money isn't an option, isn't a difficulty perhaps, parents will be maybe looking at purchasing property in, say, in Belfast or in Dublin in order to provide accommodation for children who are going to university.
Yeah, well, one of the consequences of the current economic recession is that interest rates are currently very low. So if you are fortunate enough to have cash, you're getting a very poor return on it. And with all the indications that the property market has perhaps bottomed out, it may be very good value to buy a house which your daughter or son could live in as a student, and then also perhaps have 2 or 3 other students in it, creating rental income. Now the advantage of that is it allows you perhaps to get a return on your cash, but number 2, it gives you the security of your knowing that your son or daughter has reasonably quality accommodation, and it's an investment for the future. And certainly it's becoming more common, and I'm aware certainly of somebody who's also who has a potential child going to London and are looking at that possibility as well. Yeah,
it makes sense. I remember years ago now, goodness gracious, I was a student in Belfast at the time, and a beautiful little tiny house on the corner of a street onto Botanic Avenue became available, and I went 99% of the way towards buying it, but the big mistake was I didn't buy it. I refer to myself a lifelong fiscal dyslexic. That's me.
Well, I wouldn't be so hard on oneself, because quite often the right decision can be walking away as well, and it's the most difficult one, because at that stage quite often the emotions are exceeding the head, and we all have done those days, the impulse buying, whenever perhaps in hindsight it's like the holiday home. Thankfully I've never had a holiday home, but I'm always conscious of the people who buy the holiday home, because it then puts you in a position for years to come to justify, do I need to go there every weekend, do I need to go there every month, do I need to go there every summer, as in order to justify this great decision that I took one time,
Well, holiday homes, they'll not be travelling across narrow water. We haven't heard much about the bridge recently. It seems to be quietly away in the deep background.
Well, I'm not involved, but I would interpret no news as good news. Personally, I would think that there is a fair bit going on in the background, and I think that the less said at present is better, because it doesn't put pressure on individuals or on organisations. It allows things to take their natural course. But I think that those who have supported the bridge throughout the last number of years, indeed you could say nearly over the last 20 years, I hope they get their just reward.
Very strong people, because there's a determination in them, and they're keeping hammering on.
Yeah, and fine enough, there is no doubt about it. Our tourist product is good and has great potential. I was up yesterday, my wife and myself had take our artistic son Seamus out for a spin yesterday. He was in good form, and we went up past Belgadam and on out near the what do you call it, the Silent Valley.
Oh yeah.
And I must say, yesterday was a beautiful day. It really, the place, the countryside, the scenery was gorgeous.
Yeah, I have to say, Benny McKay was in yesterday morning on the programme, and he's of the U3A. They were going out into the mountains yesterday, did a bit of walking, and thoroughly. I unfortunately spent the greater part of yesterday in here preparing this morning's show, which was a work of extraordinary magic, because everyone I wanted to talk to was either in the mountains or Spelga or somewhere else, and all of that sort of thing. It would be wrong to let you go without congratulating St. Peter's on the 125th and on the celebrations that occurred to mark that anniversary.
Yeah, it was a great team effort, and I must say it was a lovely weekend. Friday evening we had the parade, which was great pageantry and really highlighted the rich heritage of Common Pellerny for Warrenpoint over 125 years. Really, you had the games, and you had the Irish culture, and you had the band, and you had the community outreach and the health promotion initiatives and the Irish dancing and all that, the Irish drama. But to be fair, the objective of the St. Peter's Gaelic Football or St. Peter's GAA Club Warrenpoint has been to operate at the heart of its local community for whole of family, for whole of life. And things must move on, and the focus has to be more important in the future.
Yeah.
And I suppose with that in mind, it's very encouraging that on Wednesday evening, tomorrow evening at 7 o'clock, the club is launching a social initiative project, which actually is targeted at people aged 50 and over.
Will you please hold that thought? I want you to get someone into me tomorrow to talk about that. That's a huge one.
Yeah, well, the idea basically is Mary McAleese, during her presidency of Ireland, identified initially that there was an issue, particularly in rural Ireland, of isolated men at an older age. And the concept developed into encouraging GAA clubs to provide a network for social networking. Wow. And within that then it evolved into 4 broad concepts where you could have social gatherings, for example, like card nights or music nights or dramas or any excuse to give people coffee mornings. You could have group trips. For example, you could go to Croke Park, or you could go to Titanic, or you could go to you had the other area of the whole concept of educational trip, for example, familiarization with computers or familiarization with the internet and emails, and so all these things really, like the social gatherings.
I think you advise me on that. Not that you're a psychologist or anything, but here's my point. I think have morphed, or I'm in the process of morphing into a totally solitary, isolated, cantankerous individual. Because I need none of that socializing. I need none of that company. I seem to have a world of going on in my head all the time with my writing, preparing, and all the rest of it.
But you're very fortunate and gifted, because I think, if I'm being polite, perhaps approaching 70 or close to 70.
I am. My conception day, that's the important one, is the 29th of August. And I shall be celebrating, because nowadays, if it's the most dangerous time between your conception day and your birthday, because if you've got the wrong colour of hair, the wrong colour of eyes, or whatever else, you can be wiped before you're born.
Well, I think, we're not touching that one, but we'll go further back. We'll go further back to the broad point you were raising, and I think it's an important point. I think you have been fortunate enough that from within you have ensured you've kept yourself busy, you've kept yourself active, and indeed, your pioneering work in this online television is testimony to the breadth of destination, the breadth of determination and vision that still exists within you. But if you think about that, that's really important. But equally what's important is that we've got to make sure that people who might have had a little bit more time on their hands, that we ensure that they continue, because in today's community where people are living a lot longer, we need those people to be contributing far more positive to society. I mean, you can do so many things. You can have, I'm aware of a club down south who have a ground force committee, where people who were talented with their hands now go out and cut the grass and fix the restrooms and fix the club rooms, and there are so many ideas of these organisations which are doing so much positivity in the area. And I think that ultimately, whether it be in business or in community life, those organisations who can exploit and complement the skills and the diversity of all ages, they ultimately have the greatest success. And therefore, any organisation that determines that its objective is to focus on people for the whole of life, for the whole of community, and for the whole of family.
Yeah.
I think that has to be good foundation stones, and therefore that's what Warren Point or Common Parity Warren Point are hoping to achieve. And indeed, may I say, we're not the Brill to the Newry Bosco have already had a social initiative project. Restrevor have won, and React has won. So a number of people have been doing it for some time.
Yeah. You're much more than an abacus man.
I would.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you very much.
See you next week.
Yeah, see you next week, same time.
Have some music. Stay there till we see the music on its way.